This is Community Watch on Metro TV with me, Gabriel Niobodai Togbo Ashon and Rosemary Koko Anyigba, together with Richard Adote Alote and Isaac Ej. We are coming your way from Kpone and we'll be spending this time with the aggrieved indigents of Kpone. We shall later on in this program also speak with the Municipal Chief Executive for the Kpone Katamanso Municipality, Honorable Solomon Tete. The indigents are here. We want to talk to them. They have some concerns over misappropriation, as they say, of the Kpone public cemetery. So let's get to them to know why, for some time now, they've been raising red flags about this. Welcome to Metro TV's Community Watch.
Okay, you are welcome.
So why this concern? You've held a number of demonstrations or protests, yet this matter hasn't been resolved. What's your concern this time round?
Okay, let me give you some background of this cemetery. Somewhere 1952, the government acquired compulsory land in Kpone, or Temaport acquisition. The government took Kpone land 18,000 acres. So along the line, the traditional authorities decided to ask them a portion of land for cemetery. So the land was released to Kpone by Kpone traditional authorities through the traditional council. So somewhere 2015, we realized some companies or individuals are encroaching the land. So we were able to organize ourselves to see the authorities to find out what is going on, because the land in Kpone for cemetery is about 39 acres. And we realized what left now is about maybe where we are now. So in future, there's no place we can bury our deaths. That is why we are here now, to the ground, to find out why the authorities are selling the land. We wrote petition to the authorities, like traditional authorities or traditional council, through municipal chief executive, several authorities. Nothing has been done. So now we are here to find out who are behind this sin. That is why we are here now.
My understanding of the issue as you've presented to us is that parts of the land have been given away. Do you know which body or which person is giving this out or selling these lands, if indeed it is the case?
It came to our notice that the chief executive of Kpone traditional area wrote a letter to TDC for regularization of some of the lands which have been sold. And then the information we had that the TDC also wrote that.
Do you have evidence to this?
Yes.
Where is the evidence? Well, so they apparently have something to prove that indeed the municipal chief executive for Kpone Katamanso municipality had written a letter. Okay. So it reads, RE Kpone. So this is from TDC. Where is the letter you claimed? Okay. So this one is from the Kpone Katamanso Municipal Assembly. RE Kpone Cemetery lands current situation. Reference is made to your letter dated 20th June 2018, numbered blah 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 on the above mentioned subject matter. We wish to introduce the following tenants for regularization of their permit as discussed in the earlier meeting with the Kpone Katamanso Municipal Assembly and Kpone Traditional Council, and also intimated in the letter under reference. So indeed, this letter, well, as I see it, emanated from the Kpone Katamanso Municipal Assembly.
So later, we also had the letter from TDC signed by the William Koso,
Okay.
saying that they did not do any regularization unless they contacted the authorities of the town before they can do anything.
Okay. So let's read this response from the TDC, that's the Tema Development Corporation, Development Company Limited. It reads, we make reference to a letter signed by the Municipal Chief Executive of Kpone Katamanso Municipal Assembly. We recall being summoned to a meeting by the Chief Executive in connection with a request from the Kpone Traditional Council petitioning TDC to regularize a portion of the land allocated to the council to be used as a cemetery. This request, which we initially denied, was later approved as a result of another petition from the Traditional Council stating their laudable intention to using the proceeds from the sale of the lands in walling the entire cemetery to ward off encroachers. In as much as we are not against approving your request, we would like to satisfy all conditions in order to absolve TDC of any wrongdoing in the future. As such, we would be grateful if you would confirm and communicate to us formally on the consensus reached by all necessary stakeholders in the assembly, as well as the youth of Kpone and the Kpone Traditional Council in proceeding with regularization of the land. We have been made aware that there are 5 companies currently in the area who stand to benefit from the intended regularization exercise. We would like to suggest that you consider all of them in your deliberations. What's your response to this?
My response with this means that the TDC having regularized any portion of the land to any encroacher. So,
but has the assembly engaged the youth of Kpone and also engaged the other stakeholders as TDC had recommended?
We are not aware. We are not aware. We are not aware of anything. That is why we are grieved, because in future there's no place for us.
But the Traditional Council has also been cited here and they represent you. So what if they've engaged the assembly in giving out these lands even before TDC could give
We
their...
met them several times. Petition upon petitions have been sent to them.
The Traditional Council.
The Traditional Council, traditional authorities, even the ruling clans, the 3 ruling clans. Then we also sent a petition to Jubilee House, Corporate to National Security, BNI, IGP, and then Tema District Commander, Kpone District Commander, for them to do something about it.
And what happened?
Nothing.
What did your authorities, the traditional authorities, say? What did they say?
They didn't even say anything. When we went there, we met them with one BNI lady, and then they said we should write officially. We wrote, nothing has been done.
So if they are your leaders and perhaps they've granted access to these lands to the private institutions, they are there for you, and whatever decision they take, they do so in your interest. So where lies your concern?
Master,
let me come in here. You see, the traditional authorities, they are not being truthful to the citizens of the town. Sure. You know, when we started this, we wrote a letter to them, informing them that we want to meet them. So they responded and then gave us dates. When we met them, we put a lot of questions to them. And what they said was, we should put all our questions on paper. We did that and then submitted it to them. And they promised to call us the following week. As I'm talking to you now, I think that was somewhere last year. Yeah, last year. Up to now, they have not called us. And even when you use phone to call any of them, they will not even respond. So as for petitions, the traditional authority, we've given them, even the MCE, we've given him letter, if not 2 times, 3 times. And we have copies of everywhere, wherever we have petition.
But the MCE says that there are 2 cemeteries here. One managed by the municipal assembly, a municipal assembly cemetery, and the other for the town's folk. So if the MCE has given a portion to to someone, leased it out or given temporarily to someone. Why should this be your concern as a people?
Yes,
After all, it is the assembly that manages public cemeteries.
But you see, what is happening is, if somebody is not trying to be truthful to you, what will happen is you will be forced to take the laws into your own hands. And that is one thing we don't want to do. We don't want to do that. That is why whatever we want to do, we try to get the legal backing. Okay? So that if today or tomorrow we have to do or go on demonstration, at least wherever we have sent the petitions to, they will understand this. Because we don't understand why, after giving you a lot of letters, you seem not to respond.
But my question is that if the assembly manages public cemeteries and has considered the need to give a portion of it to a fallow land as part of the cemetery and has given a portion of it to a private developer whatsoever to get funds to develop the area, why should this be your concern really? After all, they manage the area.
But you see, it's a big concern because where we are standing now, you look around, look at the portion of land remaining for the people to be buried here. They have not even prepared any new place so that even after selling the lands to, developers and other people, quickly when this place is full, we can just start burying those who are dying at the next place. They haven't done anything of that sort. So what will happen within 2 months? If here is full of dead bodies, where are we going again? So it's a big concern that we are trying to address. Because if they don't seem to respond to us, then, there is no town in Ghana here that anybody at all can just get up and then sell cemetery land. Where is this done? No. And they seem not to be talking to the citizens of the land. Like maybe once a while, use the public address system. Oh, man, people, this and this and this and this we are trying to do. Nothing.
At all.
Nothing.
At all.
So what do we do?
All right.
And then, any reasonable leader cannot say cemetery. Any reasonable leader. Because how can you sell a cemetery? How can you rent a cemetery?
Well, if the land is there and it isn't being used, at least for now, it could be given out for development
For what
purposes.
reason?
To develop your own
Even
community.
the traditional authorities or the traditional so-called traditional council people sold all Kpone lands without accounting for.
So you hold your manchairman, your leaders responsible.
Yeah.
So very soon, you will hear of us. Very soon, legal actions, or we shall advise ourselves. Good.
So your manchairmen are watching. You can even communicate to them in Ghana. And also the municipal assembly authorities will be meeting the MCA. You can also talk to them. So who first do you talk to?
Nini yo miji. Nini ya no ya musushan. Wo ke wo moni pelji ni tototu. Ke wo municipal assembly name. Ke me ko meni fio na kan bi e ma me won Kenya gashin. Mai hia wo Kpone. If you go here, no beni am fitio shikojin agbeni ake go fe ton company pele como ene she ni mi e so e ko bi biu ko pe beni ke be ko be na agbo ke gbo mo na agbo ngbe aba fun gbe meye ni onya wo fin wo dwan mai ni wo fe ni sa sini ni ya no ehin no bi an mi ke wo president na na do ake na ni bi ni ya no po ehin lo le che fe na le ke je na kan le ni baba e ba hin na mo hin man e ho imam e go na mo hin man aba ho an ka ho go ko agbo afu e gbe show mi lo mi ni alo wa show mi
ni kwa ke eni wodra ke che ne ka wo gbo e mi ni ngba ba fu wo ye alo ka wo gbo e aba san wo lo.
Sometimes we see a number of young people claiming to be fighting for their heritage and for their lands. Yeah. And soon when portions of the lands are released, then they also sell off the land. So is it really the case that they are advocating for the interest of your people, or maybe in the end, so you also get the lands and then sell them off.
Onupa je wota wo sika ma sande ka otu ni ma wo play je sika kura wota wo onye wo play go ni ka go onu ahun si won play be ni kam go tu ense na ba na ko na kala to ju wona agba
bi aton e ha ni keji o talo lemi ni o fagbepo de che e ye he gble lo le emri gbo ni yo ma mi fe je mo so ami jowo e ja ke ne ke no ko be ami man ni keji ama ba bi e ni wo wa ka ke we man gulumi ni wo hon wo he na gbe wo ye wo se ni gbe wa wo e ba se iku e wo tuami ka wo siami aba fun wo ye ni je na kan ji bo ni wo ba ni na wo ni me ke wo cheme wo abi ame mene ke elehe ko beni kanse ke elehe ko traditional council bi un ke mini amelehe ko no na ka me ji ma hi enyelu e no me ho shipon omo no me ho god manchester jino kote no ya gbopo no a shipon e ko wa ke ni igbe na bi e be ba wo
thank you
manchester jino na ta mi daku sinle na kan ni ojogba e ko ake ni igbe na bi e amba wo bo na ni e no ke ji manchester money service ta frache baba o wo ke atwakwedu na pandan ni le hien neke ni na money vision ke wo me ni service ta frache wo ke degrees wo hien degrees masters ni wo na neke vision ne be ne gbe wo du na pan na twa ne gbe se na mo yo.
Thank you very much. So you've heard from aggrieved indigenes of Kpone, and all that they've been saying is that at some point, government-acquired lands of the area was released to the people, and as part of these lands, there were part that was meant for cemetery, but over time, then parts of the cemetery lands are being sold off by unknown persons, but they are still pushing, so they see a situation where the cemetery lands will be left untouched. Already much of it has been taken and efforts are underway to still acquire what is left. And where we are now, that is the actual site for the cemetery. It's only just a little portion left, and they are going to pursue this issue to its logical conclusion, and that they are just not going to let this issue be where the lands will be given to private developers and the cemetery will get full up such that there will be no place else to bury their dead. You are still on Community Watch here on Metro TV with me, Gabriel, Ni Obodai Atupra Atunam Togbo Ashon Kwalsonu. And we are within TDC, Tema Development Corporation, to engage the Protocol Administrative Officer, Mr. Ian Okwe, on the Kpone Cemetery land issue. Thank you for granting us this interview. First off, give us a background to the Kpone Cemetery lands, how the TDC released this land for such purpose, and then what has transpired since.
Okay, so, the mandate of TDC has always been to be a real estate management company after we changed from TDC Corporation or Tema Development Corporation. Now we are a real estate management company, so we are limited liability. And therefore, lands such as school lands, market areas, cemeteries like this in question are no longer under the management of TDC. They are under the management of the municipal assemblies per the Local Government Act, because they are supposed to be used for community purposes. So case in point, this particular Kpone land was granted some request based on a request from the Kpone Traditional Council, which I think I gave evidence in the minutes as the Kpone Traditional Council held a meeting with TDC some time ago. This was 2019 December. And in that request, the Traditional Council indicated that they needed portion of the land to be rezoned so that they can generate some revenue in order to fence the entire cemetery. That is the existing cemetery, the new cemetery extension, and then another existing cemetery. Okay. So this request was granted after TDC was also invited by the Kpone Municipal Assembly. And when the Municipal Assembly and the Traditional Council agreed that this is what they need because the cemetery land was going to be encroached, TDC felt that that was also a way to protect the whole area. So the request was granted. And after this request was granted, which I have indicated on the layout for you,
The frontage.
frontage and that of the place for the cheetah farms, several requests have come.
But first, how many acres were released? Are you able to tell us?
The total acreage, I don't have it offhand here, but I can get it to you based upon the land space on the layout. But you can clearly see the existing cemetery, the new extension, and then the other existing cemetery. And even when you do the calculations from the layout, you can clearly see, which I'll give you.
Part is being occupied by, is it
Cheddar farms.
Cheddar farms, and then the other part is at the frontage of the where the highway is.
So this is the only allocation or rezoning which was granted based upon a request which the KKDA and then the Traditional Council themselves brought a formal request to TDC. And you remember that I've given you correspondence that the Municipal Assembly themselves have attested to the fact that the request that they brought for the fencing of the place and also the Traditional Council, I've also given you a copy. Those are the only official correspondence we have with them. To be frank, there was even a meeting in TDC which the chief himself came, and they thanked us for adhering to that request and also being able to fence the whole place. After that, several requests have come from the Traditional Council and other individuals that TDC should regularize portion of the cemetery lands for them, which we have indicated to them that we cannot. And even with this minute, you attest that the Traditional Council and the Municipal Assembly themselves have indicated that we have declined all those requests. So any development that you see around that particular area, which is not part of this layout, is an encroachment. And I believe that since the land is not under our management, but we can only come in as a real estate management company to rezone, it is incumbent that the Municipal Assembly up their game in terms of making sure that all those developments don't exist over there.
And could those developments happen without the knowledge of the Municipal Assembly and also the traditional authorities?
These are areas within their jurisdiction, because we are only doing management of requests that comes, and the management of the requests that have so far come, we have declined. So if we decline a request, we see no reason why those buildings or structures should be existing. And the Local Government Act empowers the Municipal Assembly to even demolish without notice to any encroacher. So if the residents are protesting, I believe that the first point of call should be the Municipal Assembly to let them know that if it is not part of this particular discussion, it must be demolished.
Are you aware of the Central Ceramics Company?
I know Cento themselves have an allocation for the 1D, 1F, which is the Cento Ceramic. As to their boundary going into the cemetery, there is no request like that has been granted by TDC.
So theirs is separate from the lands of the cemetery, the 39-acre land.
Per our layout, they have a separate allocation. If it is today or yesterday that they went into any place like that, that TDC is not aware.
Okay. And the tanker yards?
No. You know, I think we need to be fair to the existing layouts. We don't have anywhere here that, unless somebody has an acquisition here or an allocation here, that the person is using it for a tanker yard, I don't know. But I know of cheetah farms, and I know of these developments and the existing cemeteries. All these correspondents are available, and as you readily requested it, and I just gave you all this information, it's also important that as residents, one of the civic responsibility that should happen is for them to also seek first-hand information from TDC. I think if this kind of information was available to them, this kind of agitations would have been well structured in terms of how to go about it. But
they've brought a petition to your outfit, which I have a copy here.
They initially demanded that they wanted certain information, which those information were correspondent to them based upon a meeting that we initially had with the traditional council. So if you even check from the minutes, it was not only the traditional council that came, but representatives of the residents. Okay. So if the traditional council met with TDC and representatives of the residents was also part of the meeting, and per the minutes all these issues were resolved, I don't think there's the need for any agitation, unless those residents association or the representatives of the residents didn't communicate back to their membership.
Okay. So just so I'm sure they'll be watching, just so they understand that you've done justice or you've done nothing wrong going forward, they have 3 issues that they wish could be addressed for them. The first is find out all those who have encroached on our cemetery lands and who sold those lands to them. Are you in a capacity to share this?
This is very simple. You know, those who have encroached, the municipal assembly is simply there. They will have to engage the municipal assembly. If they did not give them those allocations, TDC, we don't have any of their records here. So demolition is also in the hands of the municipal assembly. It's so simple.
You've mentioned the demolition. I think that's their second point. The fact that demolish all illegal structures and constructional facilities within the cemetery enclave.
So the Local Government Act also gives the municipal assembly that power, not TDC. TDC, we don't have that power to embark on.
Wouldn't that bring a conflict of interest? So let's take it that it is the municipal assembly granting a piece of land, and yet it's the same authority that has to step in and then sanction.
Assuming without admitting that they had done that, so now the residents
then
are demanding.
Goes in to demolish the structure.
Yes, if the residents should think that it's something that is going on and they've petitioned the municipal assembly and is not getting the right attention, municipal assembly is under the local government. Simply, it should be notified.
Okay. Thank you very much. Their last point is not to regularize any land purchased within the released cemetery land.
I believe that our discussions and correspondence
so Ian is reaching out to a document.
Requests that have come from the traditional council. This is a request that came, which has been declined. That is the name, Municipal Assembly. You see, so some of these things, it is not as if we are just here and we are not being responsive. We do things that the residents will not know, but our means of communicate is for us to first of all do the right thing, and then when there's an issue, we will have to also defend the rightful things that we did. This issue of we not going to regularize lands which are within the cemetery, we communicated it to the traditional council when they came here, and we told them after this one, if they want to have any allocation or rezoning in the area, it must be justified.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okwi. So for me, it is very clear to me. The question, however, is that the tanker yards and also Central Ceramics other operations happening within the cemetery lands, and if they are, or if parts of the Kpone cemetery lands have indeed been encroached on, for which the residents are agitating, who or which institution granted that piece of land to developers. We'll be meeting the municipal chief executive. We had engaged him earlier, but then he declined to talk at the first instance. We are going to make another request to meet up with him for an interview, and we'll keep you updated. We have also tried severally, including a meeting with the Kpone for an interview, but we haven't been successful so far. Who are selling portions of the Kpone cemetery lands, if indeed it is the case? Continue watching Community Watch as we get to the bottom of this issue. This is Gabriel Nyobodai Togba-Ashon, and thanking Mr. Ian Okwe for this insightful conversation.